Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome everyone again for the Monday slot, which is the debate. And today we are having a very interesting topic which will interest everybody, of course. Today we'll talk about health, and our topic is the distributional impact of health expenditure and inclusive growth in Africa. This program is hosted by none other than Bolifo Elvis Ambi, and with me in the studio, we are going to have our very regular host, Professor Ruben Ajolu Alabi, who will be giving us an elaborate explanation on how this actually obtains. But before that, it will interest you to know that due to the high levels of competition and overriding profit motives in the supply of healthcare, there are all forms of unethical behavior in this field. In most cases, patients need to deposit huge sums of money before they can even be touched, talk less of attended to. And with the proliferation of health services, which are, of course, private, aimed just at making much profit, fake drugs have become the order of the day, making patients or clients, as they call them, to stay longer in hospital due to ineffective treatment. And sometimes you cure what brought you to hospital and take another illness home. We can equally notice that most people die because of lack of money or no health insurance to cover the exaggerated bills or even the existence of a third party intervention. This imposes a high cost of healthcare, causing significant burden on family members because family members sometimes are the ones who are supposed to bear the cost of treatment. This therefore leaves us to continue praying each day for good health instead of being able to pay our bills for good health. And today with me in the studio, like I told you already, we have Professor Ruben Alabi, who will for inclusive growth. Thank you very much, Professor, for being with me again in studio. Last week we talked about education and the acquisition of skills, which can lead equally to inclusive growth. And today we have another interesting topic. Join me, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome into the studio again Professor Ruben Ajolu Alabi, who will thrill us for about 15 to 20 minutes with his presentation. And then we are going to do an interactive exchange on the issues that will come up, and where we have worries, we are going to clarify. Professor, you're welcome again to our studio. This is your platform. This is your space. You're welcome, Prof.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator and my host. And thank you very much, every one of us. As the moderator has said, we will be looking at the distributional impact of health expenditure and how does that one affect inclusive growth in Africa. We want to be sure that the health facilities, health infrastructures, medical opportunities are distributed in such a way that everybody benefits. And so when people, if everybody benefits, then everybody can have equal and even access to those facilities. And then they will be able to, when they are healthy, they will be able to participate actively in the economic process, productions, and development. So that's the argument we want to put across today. And all of us know that investment in human resources enable individuals to participate actively in national development, economic growth, economic productions, economic development. So people have to have that resources available to them so that they will be able to participate actively in the economic process. And we all know that premature mortality, undernourishment, and diseases incidence are deprivations that will hinder people, that will prevent people from develop the way they're supposed to develop, whether in Africa or not in Africa, all over, where you have premature mortality, undernourishment, disease incidences, there is a tendency for people not to develop the way they're supposed to develop. So the allocation of economic resources as well as arrangement of provisions of these public utilities facilities must give priority, as I've said, to make sure that no disadvantaged groups are excluded in their distributions. And public expenditure is one of the ways to do that. So you can use your public expenditure to redistribute these facilities, even redistribute incomes where there is imperfect market for these health facilities and health infrastructures and provisions. So we argue that expenditure allocations in favor of health can boost inclusive economic growth while reducing poverty. We will see that as we talk along. So the emphasis of increasing public spending on primary healthcare is generally justified on the basis that such spendings ameliorate the impact of diseases on the productive life years of population. So it has been proved and shown that the body of diseases in developing countries can be reduced greatly if governments make available a minimum package of essential cost-effective medical clinical services. So if the burden of these diseases, the burdens of this premature mortality, burdens of this undernourishment can greatly be reduced if government can make available a minimum package of cost-effective essential clinical and medical services. Now let's generally look at the situation of public health spending in Africa. All of us know that public health spending has been statistically proved to be significant on health status. Health is wealth, but if you don't have money, you may not have access to health facilities, either from government side or from private side. So that's why spending on health has been proved, shown that it has statistical significant effect on the health status of the people. So public spending has a beneficial impact on health condition of the poor. The poor benefit if they have access, they make use of these facilities if they have access to them. It has been reported that in Africa, public health care continue to fall short of demand. We're still going to talk more on that. It remains unevenly, not only that public expenditure, public health care provision is falling short. It is not. It is to remain unevenly distributed among the population and favor inappropriate allocation of medical resources. We are going to see that, so that the urban area is more favored than rural area, and then tertiary healthcare provision is more favored than primary. We will still talk along that line. So resources misallocations appear to be reflected on unequal social geographical accessibility of these healthcare services. That's what I was trying to say. You see the division between rural area and urban area, unequal distribution between the social group, the poor and the non-poor. So shortcomings in healthcare services provision include insufficient stock of facilities and personnel, as well as wide disparity between major urban center and rural area. I'm going to show that we those health facilities we are talking about, do they have enough facilities? Do they have enough equipment? I demonstrate that with the case of Togo and Nigeria. So those people in the hospital, do they have thermometer? Do they have medical equipment? How many are they? Are they sufficient for the people? That's one distribution. The other distribution between the major urban centers and the rural area. So the efficient management of public health resources, the efficient management of public resources is critical to the growth of human capital formation and development in Africa. We said that last week. The human capital development is very critical to economic development, and to build your human capacity, you need education and you need health. If somebody is not healthy, he will not be able to go to school. If somebody is not healthy, he will not be able to go to farm. If somebody is not healthy, will not be able to go to work, and that can affect negatively the economic growth and development. Now, I demonstrate here. I try to relate the health expenditure and economic growth. You see the blue line under, that's the expenditure as a percentage of GDP in sub-Saharan Africa. You see that it's crawling under. And that may be the reason why the economic growth was brought down. Right from 2016, you see the thing went down. Because as I've said, when people there's no healthcare professions, they don't have access to healthcare facilities, they were not able to go to hospital when they are sick. So those that are working, will not be able to work. Even if they are working, a sick man will not be as productive as he's supposed to be. So that can implicate, that can explain the reason why we have lower economic growth crawling. Now, I show the ratios of the patients to physicians in sub-Saharan Africa. In the year 2000, you have one doctor to treat 10,000 patients. In the year 2000, one doctor will have to attend to 10,000 patients. In 2017, it increased to two doctors treating 10,000 patients, meaning that one doctor will treat 5,000 patients. So how will that doctor be able to take care of all these people? And the recommended ratio is one doctor to 600 people. But in Africa, we have one doctor to 5,000 people. And so you can see the disparity, you can see the difference, you can see the reason why, even if that doctor does not sleep for 24 hours, there's no way we'll be able to effectively treat all those patients. Now, I look at service delivery indicators in Nigeria. I will show you that of Togo. For example, if you look at the first three columns, these are the absentees from the health facilities. For example, in Nigeria, when they visited the urban health centers, they discovered that those people that are supposed to be there, 37% of the cases are not there, almost 40%. So, that is in urban area. In rural area, 25% of the time, the people that are supposed to be there are not there, and then the rural area is 29% of the time. So, likewise, when you see the number of those health facilities, do they have thermometer? Is the minimum medical equipment. Do they have this equipment? It's only 75% of those hospitals, health facility that has ordinary thermometer, 75% of them, and that is in urban area. In rural area, it is only 63%, and then the national average is 67%. Now, I'm interested in this refrigerator. Now, if you look at the refrigerators, how many of these hospitals have refrigerator? In urban area, is only 35% of those hospitals visited. And the reason why I'm interested in that is that in this COVID vaccination, you need to put your vaccines in deep freezer. So people that don't have refrigerator, how could they have deep freezer? So how would they stop the vaccines? Even the vaccine they are giving to the children, all those polio vaccines, measles vaccines, they're supposed to be inside refrigerators, and they don't have. So meaning that those vaccines will be kept carelessly, will be kept inappropriately. So even if they use it for the children, you discover that it will not work. And that's why you see, despite the vaccination rate going up, you see the incidence of these diseases in Africa. So then I went to Togo. We look at the case of Togo. Togo is even better than Nigeria in terms of thermometer. Almost all the hospital visited in Togo, they have at least thermometer. But when you look at refrigerator too, it's only about 60% of them. It's only yes, about 64% of those hospitals that have refrigerator. What about almost 30%? It means about 30% of the hospitals don't have refrigerator. We have to keep the vaccines to vaccinate the children. And now, in the case of pandemic, in the case of COVID, it means that they don't have those facilities. So the minimum, when you look at drug availability, it's only 46, about 42% of them in the rural area, 46 in urban area, 43 nationally. So it's only about 43% of the hospital in Togo they have drugs. Let me look at that of Nigeria. It's almost the same thing for Nigeria. Nigeria is just 45% of the hospital they have drugs. So we are talking of having the hospital, and we are talking of having the drugs, talking of having the equipment to treat the people. So you discover that almost about 50% of those hospitals, they don't have the drugs, they don't have refrigerators where to keep the vaccines or the drugs. Now, I look at the distribution pattern of these health facilities. I look at the case of Ghana. You discover that if you look at the days, the lower hospital level, what we call with the primary health care, for example, primary health care in Ghana, it's only 10% of them that is shared to the poorest. Another way of saying it is that 90% of uh, primary healthcare facilities in Ghana is being used by the richest. The richest have only 10% accessibility, and that is because of their locations. That's because of maybe they have to pay some charges, and so therefore some of them will decide not to go. The poorest people will decide not to go to hospital because they don't have money to pay, or the place is far from where they are, or the road is bad, and so you see that majority of the spending on primary healthcare facilities, primary healthcare expenditures in Ghana is being shared by the poorest. Then the average for developing countries is 21, meaning that the share of the poorest in healthcare provisions, primary healthcare provisions in the developing country, the poorest share 21%, while in Africa they share only 10%. And so I look at the distribution pattern of vaccinations in Nigeria. One thing is very clear that the poorest share only 44%, meaning that if you are from poorest home in Nigeria, the probability of you getting vaccinated is just 44%. So now, and some of those vaccines, if you remember, they are being they are supposed to be free. Some of those vaccines they are being sponsored, we are being paid for by international donors. Now, what happened that the poorest people are not getting access to them, as I've explained, maybe because of locations. Even the fascinators, they may not be able to go to that place because the place is the road is bad. They may not go to that place because they have to cross the river. They may not go to that place because they may be afraid of insecurity. So you discover that the poorest they don't have the accessibility as the richest, and the people in the south they have more accessibility than to people in the north. And so that's why you see that in northern part of Nigeria, you still see the diseases that are supposed not to be killing people still killing them. And it's because of the disposal pattern, it's because of accessibility. Now, one of the main problems in Africa is what I call medical doctors' brain drain. When you look at the case of Nigeria in 2015 alone, we have 4,000 Nigerian medical doctors practicing in USA. Those are the people that are registered. That was 2015. By now, it might be doubled because many people have moved between, many doctors have left Nigeria between 2015 and 2020. So, by as of 2015, we have 4,000 Nigerian doctors that are practicing in USA. In UK, we have about 5,000 registered Nigerian medical doctors. Many have moved across to Canada. There are many in Germany, as we are talking now, many in Dubai, many in Australia. Remember that we said that the ratio in Africa is very low. You have one doctor treating 5,000 patients. Now you ask yourself, where are those our own doctors that we are training for? We train from our university. The case is because they migrated. There's that brain drain. They left the hospitals, and the reason for this is because they complain of lack of better facilities at home, poor working environment. In those developed countries, the salaries are better and higher, and you can still be sure. Then there is a career progressions and improved quality of life. And so, uh, as I've said, the World Health Organization indicated that Nigeria physician to patient ratio is 4 doctors to 10,000 patients. And that is double that of average for sub-Saharan Africa. It's against 26 and 28 doctors per 10,000 people in USA and Canada. So in USA and Canada, they have the ratio of 26 doctors to 10,000 patients. In Nigeria, we have a ratio of 4 doctors to 10,000 patients. And you still see our own doctors now moving to go and join them where they have 26 doctor, 28 doctor per patient. So, and as I said that the World Health Organization recommendations is 1 doctor to 600 people. But in Africa, average for Africa is 1 doctor to 5,000 people, meaning that it's just like we are just about 10% of the recommended. Now, unfortunately, on Tuesday, just about 2 weeks ago, Nigerian doctors were about to commence, a nationwide strike to protest their poor working conditions. The president of Nigeria went for medical checkup in UK. As I told you that the reason for the Nigerian doctors, the reason why many of them are leaving is because there is no good health facilities for them, the poor working environment, the salary is poor. Most of the time, the reason why they decided to go on strike is because their salaries were not being paid. So as you can see them now, these are Nigerian medical doctors on the streets. They started the strike on the 30th of March this year because I think they were owing them almost 3 months' salaries. The hospital condition is very bad. That was the moderator said it, that sometimes you went to the hospital for one treatment. When you are coming back, you have contracted another sickness, and it's because of the poor working health conditions. So the doctors are on strike on the street in Nigeria, and the president is checking out to UK for medical checkup. I highlighted the medical checkup because what is involved in medical checkup is not to change your pressure, your temperature. So it means that we don't have hospital that can do that in Nigeria. And so because of that, so the man have to move out to go and do medical checkup. I'm sure he's still there now, doing medical checkup. And as long as we have that condition situation, it will be difficult for the president to develop the health institutions, health facilities in their country. Now, let's go further to look at what are those diseases that are very common in Africa. Now, uh, the major one is malaria. Malaria accounted for 30% of all the outpatient clinic. The two leading causes of child mortalities are still malaria and diarrhea. The major cause of maternal mortality is still malaria. Another one is malnutrition, undernourishment. So I can say that the major causes of diseases, the major causes of diseases in Africa is malaria and undernutrition. If our people are well fed and we are able to control malaria, many of our people will be healthy. We have only just 10% that complain about hypertension and all those other uh, bigger incidents of disease. But you agree with me that malaria is a major problem coupled with malnutrition. And when you are not well fed, your immune system will be low, just like what those are some of the things we know about the COVID. And when your immune system is very low, so any disease can affect you negatively. And so we need to emphasize that we don't have, if we can provide minimum health facilities, health, equipment, medical personnel to our people to control malaria, and then people are well fed, our disease incidence will be very, very low in Africa. Now, when the government is not doing what it's supposed to do, now the next thing people have to do is that you have to pay by yourself, just like the moderator said. And when you want to pay by yourself, you don't have money, there will be a problem. That's why you see what I call out of pocket expenses. That's the private expenses by the people. You discover that over the years going up. So when the private medical expenses is going up and people don't have money, then you will not have, they will deny you the access. And before they perform operation on you or do anything for you, they say go and bring money. So if you don't have money, they will park you aside. And when they park you aside, then anything can happen to you. And now, when there is increase in private medical expenses and the poverty level is still a problem, although it's going down, but the gap is still about 15%, meaning that we have about 15% of our people that don't have anything. So they don't have money, and they ask them to bring money in the hospital, and they are sick, and they are not attended to. Then there is a problem. And you know that the insurance scheme is not there, and so that's why you see many people that are dying out of sickness and diseases. Now you see malaria mortality is still a challenge. The meaning of that, for example, is that by 2018, about 21% of people still die of malaria. As at 2018, about 21% of causes of sickness and diseases is still malaria. And so you still see male mortality is going down, but it's still relatively high. And the reason is because people don't have access to medical facilities, especially the poor. And so they will not be able to make use of those medical facilities. And those medical facilities, they are not well equipped to treat and to take care of the people. And that's why you still see that mortality that is still very high. Now let's conclude by saying that we need to have there must be a political will with a strong resolve that prioritize the health sectors and allocate sufficient budget to help resolve some of those for doctors exodus. It is is a major problem that Africa will train many of our medical doctors, but they are working outside the continent. In fact, somebody said jokingly that President Buhari that traveled to UK, you may not be surprised that the doctor that will treat him in UK, they are doctors trained in Nigeria. So, but the doctor have to leave Nigeria because there are no equipment for him to work, no poor working conditions. So, so you have to travel now, and then you go and meet the same doctors that you cannot take care of in Africa that left your continent. So, African government, we have to spend more than 5% of our GDP on health. The year 2000, the sub-Saharan Africa spend about 5% of their GDP on public health. And as 2018, 9 years after, we still remain at the same level. In fact, it's even lower, it's about 5.08. And this is contrary to Abuja declarations of increasing the public expenditure to about 15% of GDP. And to me, that is not too much, because the recommended average from the World Organization, I think, is about 20 something percent. Even if you don't want to go that way, well, I said last week that the public expenditure to education is about 20%. So if the education is 20%, why can the health be 5%? So there must be a change, and that must be urgent change. And that's why you see that we have hospital without medical facility. We have hospital without thermometer. We have hospital without refrigerators. We have hospital that people, the workers have to be absenting themselves, so that they can look for, maybe they go and look for money elsewhere. They go and do business to make sure that they have money to take care of their family. So the budget should also be restructured. Public health expenditure, public health budget should also be restructured in favor of primary health care. So a situation where about 69% of health budget is spent on tertiary health care is not proper. The spending should also be realigned in favor of rural area. I've said that. You see that there is a primary health care, there is a tertiary health care. Primary health care is the one that deal with the vaccinations, maternal mortality, child mortality, undernutrition. So that's why we have the majority of the poor people accessing those facilities. But the budget is structured in such a way that health care, that primary health care takes only just about 30%, while the tertiary health care takes about 70%. And another thing is that the health budget, because of the way it's structured, 70% of the health budget is spent on rural area. And that rural area is where we have, uh, 70% of the health budget is spent on urban area. And in that urban area, we have only 30% of our population living there. And then we spend only 30% of our health budget in rural area, where we have 70% of our people, where we have all our farmers. And so that structure is imbalanced. And that's why you get to many of these primary healthcare facilities in rural area. There is nothing there. The equipment are not there. Then there is need for private public partnership in funding research on malaria. As I've said, about 30% of incidence of diseases in Africa is still malaria. And in Africa, that's why we have, in tropical area, that's why you have problem of malaria. It's not a problem in temperate area. And over the years, how many years now, Africa have not found solutions to malaria. Africa have not found vaccines to malaria. And it's because there's no funding people are not funding the research in that area. And so I think Africa, we need to look at our problem. Malaria is our problem. And then our medical doctors, our researchers have to focus on that. And then when we focus on that, the private and public partnership, people have to come up and want to fund that research. All our billionaires, they have to join hand with the government to make sure that the provision is made for cases like malaria, sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is a problem of the black people. And so all those sicknesses, there must be a research funding that will be able to take care of them. I think if you're able to do that, number one, people that don't have access will be able to have access. People that are dying as a result of mortality, as a result of incident of these diseases, that will be minimized, and then they will be able to participate actively in the economic process, economic development, and growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor, for that elaborate submission. You have actually dissected the health sector in most of the African countries. Why not the African continent? If I could summarize all that you have said, we talked of absenteeism of health personnel, we talk of migration equally, which has resulted in the brain drain of our doctors. We equally talk of lack of salaries or poor facilities which are equally biasly distributed. And we talk of poor political policies, lack of equipped training school, which equally makes most of these doctors to find themselves out of the country. And who will enjoy those facilities that we have out of the country? Clean environment, clean working conditions, a good pay package, and actually be coming back home. That person should actually be a very good patriot. And we talked equally of no funding of the research. When you insist on malaria, I was going to come to that malaria, which is still what is really concerned, what is really involved in infant mortality. And you will not believe that when you go for antenatal here, women must, it's a must, be put on malaria therapy, something that has been in Africa for decades. And when you look equally, like you're saying, the ratio of the doctors to patient, we have one doctor to 5,000 patients. Prof, you will bear with me that this can only mean patients dying just from common malaria. And if we go further, we will equally see the number of patients who are admitted in our hospitals just for malaria. If you look at the ratio of those admitted for other ailments and malaria, you see that malaria is always recurrent. And even the statistics will show that malaria is very endemic in African countries, in the African continent, but nothing actually is being done to curb this situation. And we will see equally, Prof, that health expenditure and economic growth are not directly proportional because much is put in health, if at all, and very little in health, which we say that health is wealth. I will be coming back to ask you the question if every African will be able to situate his or herself in this assertion, that health is wealth. And if you want to put it another way, we will equally say that wealth is health. When you say that most health facilities are only accessible to the rich, and the question we'll be asking you equally, Prof, again, is what then is the criteria that is used to situate, to locate most health facilities, which, if we go by aspiration one, it is health for everybody, good life for everybody. It means that something is lacking somewhere, and we have to really work to see that these things are kept, and that the African population, the Africans that we are, actually get good health facilities, free, of course, accessible for everybody if possible, so that we will match the assertion that you said that a healthy people, or a health, or if we have want to have good people or healthy people, we need to educate and equally provide them with health facilities. Prof, thank you so much for that wonderful submission. I always listen very keenly, because there is no presentation that you do that I do not get new things that I really could not believe that that is what is happening. Thank you very much, Prof. And we will be having an interactive session where a few questions are coming up, some from our viewers. I want to already thank those who are with us online, always very faithful with us, following the programs. Like we said, the aim of the Sumpon Global TV, the Sumpon Social Services, is to see how we can popularize this Agenda 2063 and make it known to each and everyone, because this is our agenda, which, like my CEO says, it is cut and shaped for Africans. Thank you, Prof, so very much for that wonderful submission. And I will take you with this first question, Prof. Malaria, like you have said, is very endemic, and it's as old as whatever you can think. And today we still consider malaria as one of that illness or sickness that actually is responsible for infant mortality. Is this a joke or something? Are we really serious that malaria will just come and will keep killing our people when other ailments have come and cures have been discovered, researches have been done, and good quality treatments have been discovered for these ailments? Why is it so difficult for a proper and final treatment to be gotten for malaria, that once you take that treatment, you are immune for life against malaria, Prof?
Thank you very much. The first thing is that it's because malaria is a tropical disease. It's a tropical disease. Supposing it affect them in temperate countries, they will have find solution to malaria. So, but because it's our problem, and that's why they left. Why did they quickly get vaccine for COVID that is not up to 2 years, and malaria
Mhm,
has been there for how many years? So
mhm,
it's not their problem, it's our problem, and we need to find solution to our problem.
mhm,
So I think that is very important, that as we are talking about Africa we want, we need to really uh, sit down and then look at our major problem one by one. Malaria is our major problem. Then how do we find solution to it? In fact, somebody said European Union, they have European Union University. And that's what I want to say now. So as we have this agenda 2063, there must be a university dedicated to look at this agenda, the policy research, the problem we have, and they have to find solution to it. Even if we cannot create university, we can have department. There is a department, one department is Africa with one department. And their own work is to look at our major problem and find solution to it. We have
mhm,
malaria as a problem. So let's continue to do research. We pump money. AU pump money to it, they can get donation from people. Then our billionaires, you know how many billionaires we have in Africa? How many of them are funding research? But they are ready to fund some of these uh, be Niger or something. You know all these things that doesn't really all those things on television. Those are the things where they are putting money. But that's not our problem. Our problem is
Mm.
malaria. So we can say that take 10% or even 1% of their money, we put it on research on malaria. And then within 1 2 years, we'll find solution to that, and our problem will be solved. And our people will stop dying.
Mhm.
Not that the infant dies. Most of the mothers, maternal mortality is because of this malaria. And Africa has the highest maternal mortality in the whole world. So we know our problem. Then why can't we sit down and then find solution to it? Another thing I want to say is the political will. I don't know
Yeah.
how we are going to push that. That as long as your president can go to travel to UK, travel to America to get medical attention, they will never take care of what they have at home. Imagine president of America coming to Germany for treatment. For what? So that's why there must be that strong political will. I don't know how we are going to push it. As long as there is that alternative, you will never take care of your own home. And if we are really serious about this Africa we want, these are some of
Mhm.
the things we need to push politically. That
Thank,
it is there
thank you,
must be
Prof.
a okay. con-
Thank you. You remember last week I made an allusion, which was a fact, of course, that the Tanzanian president who just left us schooled entirely in Tanzania. And you are emphasizing the fact that our African presidents, which is a fact, of course, go out of their countries for medical checkup. And you really analyze this medical checkup. But some of us don't understand what it actually means, which is taking temperature,
Yeah,
checking
blood
the
pressure.
blood pressure,
Uh,
checking your weight,
yeah,
and you begin to ask yourself, is it some kind of underlooking that they really see that our health facilities here are not good enough for them to take temperature? And you talked of thermometers really not in hospitals. And somebody would think that you are joking, Prof. I have gone to hospitals. I was in a hospital just few days ago, and there was no saline solution, what you call the ringers solution for a patient. And that was in the night. And I turned and looked at the nurses who were there, and they told me it is not their fault. The direction have not supplied, and so they have nothing to do. Is it what is really happening, Prof? We were thinking that with this COVID that actually grounded most of the presidents in their own country, that something was going to be done. Have you had any information about hospitals or hospital facilities being modified in different countries, African countries, especially during this time of lockdown that presidents were back in their countries?
I think the COVID is supposed to teach us a lesson. But let me give you an example of Nigeria. I don't want to be political, but the wife of the president was one that even shouted out that they have a clinic in the presidency. We call it Asofila in Abuja. There is a clinic, and every year money is being allocated to this clinic. But the woman have to complain that despite the huge amount of money being allocated to these health facilities, there is nothing to write home about.
Mm.
That is in the presidency. We are not even talking of outside. In the presidency, the Asofila, you can Google it on the internet. The woman has to complain that what is the problem? A large sum of money is being pumped into this clinic, but every year, but there is nothing there. So there is president cannot go there to get medical medical attention. Cannot go there for ordinary checkup. So corruption is a problem. Corruption is
Mhm.
one of our problems. But I don't think we just be looking at it like that. That when that woman raised the issue, did the minister of health say anything? Nobody. No, they just swept it under the carpet. Nobody challenged that. Nobody investigated that. Nobody do anything about that. President did not ask any questions. That billions of money are being spent on this clinic. Why is it that there is no result? So if you cannot talk about the one in Aso Villa, the one in the presidency, how can you talk about the one in the village?
Thank you so much, Prof. I saw in your presentation pictures of doctors who were on the street, surely, crying out for what is not going on right, maybe salaries, working conditions, and equally incentives, because they equally have to be on some incentives to take care of themselves as they are in contact with patients who are very contagious as such. And you find it so degrading that we have our doctors on the streets when we know that health, there is no way you can get health for credit. So what is happening? What is what is the idea that health is paid before you are attended to, and then those who are working to actually make that money come in are not well taken care of? What is your idea about, or your take about this type of treatment, Prof?
It's very painful. I don't want to be emotional. This strike you saw, uh, I lost somebody that's very close to my wife. In fact, the lady is the one taking care of my boy in their secondary school. She's an accountant. She works in their school. But if you want to get anything from the boy, want to talk to the boy, she's the one. So she's pregnant, but she was coming from school one day, just a few days ago. Then this bike hit her. And then because the doctors are on strike, when we say doctors are on strike, there you cannot see any doctors in the hospital. That's the meaning. For 10
Mhm.
days, there's no doctor to attend to you. Do you know that this lady have to die? Because the private hospital they took her to, they cannot discover that the placenta has been affected.
Mhm.
So the placenta has rotten inside, and there's nobody to attend to her. The lady died. She married her last year. The pregnancy is about just about 7 to 8 months. So these
Mhm.
are some of the reality. And at the same time, as they were doing that, the president is traveling. The president is traveling at the same time out of the country. So when you travel out of the country, will you listen to the people? The people complain. So
Yes,
this
no,
one of the reasons why this doctor on strike was that their salary have not been paid for 3 months. So
I
even if
agree.
they are not on strike, let's even say they are working, somebody have not eaten for 3 months. What can he do? And remember the ratio. Somebody who's an hungry man is an angry man. So
I agree.
he himself is undernourished, and you ask him to treat undernourished people. So there's no way you can be.
Thank you,
It's
Prof. Thank
it's
you.
very painful.
Yeah, it's so painful. You can say that 10 days, because when we talk of strike, some people think that some
Ah
are on the streets and others are working, but
no,
it is hospitals deserted. Whatever condition you have, you die with the condition, and you
yeah,
can imagine how that can be. I come back to the ratio, Prof, of patient doctor patient ratio, where we have one doctor to 5,000 patients. And then on your statistics, you give us about 4,000 doctors from Nigeria alone who are out of Nigeria working in the USA. We talk of just
yes,
of USA. Now, if we
yes.
have to make a accumulation of all the African countries and with the doctors who are out of Africa, I want to think, Prof, that we can only have this type of ratio because almost all our doctors complete their specialization out of the country. And we will actually say that it's because of lack of these medical facilities, a lack of good working conditions, and equally, they don't even enjoy the job they do. And one of our viewer here is asking us, Prof, that what can we do to bring back our doctors who are out there home?
Yeah, it's a big problem. My professor told me here that let's take the case of Nigeria. That the Nigerian doctors that are outside Nigeria, they are more than the number of doctors in Nigeria. Let me
Mhm.
repeat that. Because just like you said, in USA, as that was as of 2015, we have 4,000. In UK, we have 5,000 at 2015. In Germany, yeah, if I have some of my friends that are that are medical doctor here. Then you talk of Canada, you talk of even Dubai. So now, and I just went to search on the internet. How many doctors do we have in Nigeria? We are in Nigeria. We have only 74,000 doctors. 74,000. Then, if in one country we have 5,000, multiply. So, if you have 20 countries, you can imagine the number. So that supported the what my professor told me that
Mhm.
We have more Nigerian doctors in outside Nigeria than in Nigeria, and it's because conditions are not favorable. And you cannot say, okay, because condition is not favorable, somebody who has not received salary for 3 months to be doing what, and he has a market, they are looking for himself elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They can take him elsewhere. So why can't he just go and use his brain and make money and send money home? So, but to me, as I've said, it may be difficult to push, but there must be that political will.
Thank you, Prof. It will be difficult to push, but once we have the political will,
We
things
can do
will
it.
actually go better. Let us
Yeah.
come back to aspiration one that we have been considering all this while in our debate. We have about 10 minutes to go, Prof. And aspiration one is health for all, but today we still see that health is for the rich. Isn't this a paradox?
Yeah, it's a big paradox, and that's why this aspiration is very good. This agenda is very good. And I told you that that's why we are doing a good work to first of all look at this aspiration. Then how do we get there? You understand? If you don't highlight our problem, we don't know we have problem. And if we don't have aspiration, we don't have anything to work towards. Now we know that we want to have good quality, we want our poor people to benefit. And we know the problem is that even the structure of the spending, when they are planning the Ministry of Health budget, I told you that 70% of the budget go to urban centers, urban health facilities. And
Mm-hmm.
you see how many of our people are living in urban area? Our
Mm-hmm.
majority of people are farmers and they're in the rural area. And then we want to say, okay, the part of aspiration one is that okay, we want our productivity to increase, we want to reduce our food insecurity. And the farmers that are there, they don't have access to health facilities. The man is sick, he cannot go to farm. So how
Mm-hmm.
will he be productive? So that is why I said that even if we cannot have a university study this agenda, we must have some department. They have to take this agenda one by one, and then we'll see how can we get there. Just ordinary malaria we highlighted can solve 30% of our problem.
It's
You
true, Prof.
understand? But if you just write it
Yes.
down, say, okay, we want to aspire our people to be healthy. Well, we know the reason why they are not healthy. Why can't we look for solution to that? The reason why they are not healthy, and we'll solve the problem. But this is the level of awareness we are raising about. We have a lot of work to do.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you for that insight. Like you said, you don't want to be emotional because if we actually have to get emotional,
No,
we
no,
will
no.
say things that are not supposed to be said on the platform. We were talking about lack of refrigerators, just refrigerators in hospitals. Vaccines cannot be kept.
Ouch.
I think of the probability for a Nigerian to be vaccinated was 44%, I think. It means
Yeah.
that you still have difficulties having even vaccines sometimes that are subsidized. And when you go to the hospital, you don't get them because they either have been dwindled and taken elsewhere to be sold. We don't want to get into all of that polemics because we are on a political platform and our aim is to sensitize, our aim is to educate and to make people know that this agenda actually exists and it's a good agenda, a very good agenda, of course, and we just have to follow it well. And you talked already of a university that could be put in place to take care of this agenda and see how they can analyze the agenda and see that it works very properly. One other thing that I wanted to ask Prof was or say is that in most of our African countries, the government will prefer to unblock huge sums of money to handle catastrophes. It means a situation is at hand, nothing is done, but the money that will be given to compensate people or to assist people who have been affected is even the money that could have solved that problem, and we don't have all of that. I don't know why they do that, but it is always recurrent. Maybe you educate me on the reasons why the government has to opt for that type of decision to assist instead of curing or solving the problem at hand, Prof. We have about 6 minutes to go.
That's very important. But there's one thing I want to combine with that. I still want to emphasize that our billionaires, our millionaires, we need to help in this area. That Public institution cannot do it alone. Our millionaire, billionaire, they have to support research on earth-related issues. There is this program they used to do in Nigeria. I think it's anchored in South Africa. Those of us from Nigeria, you send me the name. Be Niger or something like that. So where people will come, they will naked themselves, they will kiss on the television, people will be watching them. If you know how much amount of money our billionaire donated for that program, is this those from Nigeria they know, but from South Africa they know. They will just it will be run over the television for many, and it's just a public show of shame. People come, they kiss themselves on television. So, but the people from Nigeria will send me the name. So, but they pump a lot of money in that program. So, why can't our people, instead of program like that, why can't we fund research where our people are having problem? People watching that program, they are the people that have television at home. They have people that have electricity to watch it. But we have people there in Africa that are dying. So, just like you said, yeah, generally we are not proactive. Not only in health, we are not proactive. We think to be curative than to be proactive. The most important thing is that we need to plan right from the beginning. This is even right from the structure, as I've said, of the health facilities, that we concentrate on primary health care facilities. The rich people, they have money to go and buy to procure health. Some of them come, they can go to private hospital, but these poor people they cannot go. The road to their place is even very bad, so they don't have money. So you concentrate on where you have people that cannot have access to these things.
Yeah.
So even reallocation, restructuring, primary health care should be emphasized. Secondly, tertiary institutions. So reallocation itself is very very important. So to make sure that we are proactive, not that we are curative. That it is when the problem starts, then you run a task. That does not. It doesn't help. It doesn't help people to develop, and that's why developed countries are better. They have 50 years plan now. 50 years.
Thank
What
you.
for 50 years?
Thank you. We have 3 minutes. I wanted you to give your last word as regards a way forward to actually see to it that the health which is promised for everybody in Aspiration 1 can actually be attained, that this objective can actually be attained. Prof, you have 1 minute
I think
to
my,
give.
my my main message is the good thing about this aspiration is that it's making us to realize where we have problem, and then all of us have to come together and solve that problem. Those um, researchers, uh, billionaires, health workers. If, for example, I was talking recently. Look at the COVID. For example, I went to Nigeria. I discovered that it's not as a serious problem as in this place. Can we do a study to find out why? I told people it can just be because of the feeding pattern, because they put pepper in there. It may be. And then if you're able to discover that, okay, if you take pepper, you will it will prevent you from the so something. Before you know, they will be exporting pepper to to developed country. These are small ways of looking at our problem. Where we have that advantage, why is it that people are not? The malaria is a problem, and it's even greater problem than COVID in Africa. So why can't we do research along that area? So the private people have to cooperate. Our researcher to let's be research oriented, looking at your problem, solve your problem. I think with that we'll be able to compete with the whole world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. You see that we have to lay emphasis on research. And I want to remind our viewers who are coming in, our topic for today was the distributional impact of health expenditure and how this can lead to inclusive growth in Africa. We are on inclusive growth. We are on aspiration number 1. I want to see how this aspiration can actually be attained, how we can popularize this aspiration and the Agenda 2063 so that all of us, each and every African, is able to fit his or herself and contribute his or her little so that this aspiration actually is attained. Thank you, Prof, very much. Time is not always on our side. You always have much to say, and we must say that we are blessed, Prof, to always have you on this platform. Thank you again so very much. We are going to lay emphasis, like you say, on research. You equally said something very important. I've been trying to get where I noted it. You said to build human capacity, we need education and we need health. It means that health is very primordial, health is very important. and emphasis actually has to be laid on this. Thank you, Prof, so very much. We will
Thank you,
be
sir.
together again in our subsequent editions. Do have a good night, and bye bye to the Sumpon family. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.